We have Bruce live in the locker room in Tallahassee celebrating on the field with the Florida State. And I don't know why, like, we were able to run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden we started to abandon it. And like I said, there is some inconsistency.
How are they going to approach this game? How are they going to beat this Florida State team?
Well, we're going to break you guys.
Okay, that's it. The show's over.
In the story, we're going to break you guys. Look, and I'm joking, but it's true.
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say. All right. Welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. We're happy to be here. Thanks for being with us. And we got a good amount to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about recent recruiting, Randy Shannon of all topics, some new changes with the basketball staff, new contract for the baseball coach. We have a lot to go over tonight, so sit back. Hopefully you have tomorrow off and relax with us. And we'll get down to it and bring your questions, bring your thoughts. We always appreciate them. How is it going, old man? How's it going on your end tonight?
Are we going to talk about my bathroom renovation? Continues. It continues, but it's good. It's looking good.
Good to hear about that. Good to hear about that.
You know, all my friends say, why don't you just pay somebody to do it? Hey, I didn't grow up that way. It's competition. Me against the guest bathroom. And I'm winning. Vanity tops on. The cabinets are looking great. Now I've turned my attention and attack to the shower, and you got to deal with pipes. I get a little goosey around water pipes, but it's all good. It's coming along good, but looking forward to a great 4th of July. And I hope everybody else there is going to you got to have the burgers. You got to have the dogs, KB. You got the burgers and the dogs?
No, I had burgers earlier this week. So
what
TBD what I'm going to have tomorrow. I think I have chicken defrosting. I think I got pasta. It's not very 4th of July, but that's what I have in my
pasta. What the hell is that?
Sausage ravioli. So
that's good. You better have red, white, and blue sauce, brother.
Something. All right. Well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it right away. There's a lot to go over, like I said.
And shout out to Mike.
Yes.
Our first on the air tonight. Way to go, Mike. Good to see you, Mike. Hope you're having a great summer and happy 4th of July.
Yes, thanks for coming by. And let us know your thoughts as we get into it here. And I don't know, is the first thing you want to get into is the article you had linked with me earlier, or do you want to get into recruiting first?
Let's do the recruiting.
Let's talk about recruiting first. So as you guys probably saw, this weekend was a fireworks show, if we're going to put it in one way or another. But Florida State really hit the summer, the end of June hot. And rolled into the summer really, really well. They got, 5 commitments this past weekend in key positions of obviously need and what they want to go after. So you got C.J. Riley, Myron Charles, Kevin Wynn, and Chase Lofton, among many others, and then also Gregory Thomas. So you had 5 key guys commit to you to end out June. Obviously, 2 big defensive linemen, so Odell getting his credit, and he continues over the past couple of years to recruit very well and develop very well on the defensive lineman. Of course, you know what he's done in sending guys to the draft. And he's done well to recruit on the defensive line. And he gets 2 big hits, 2 top 150 players nationally, top 20 players in the state, and top 15 players at their position, which is great. And then the other thing is CJ Wiley, in terms of a receiver, this is a position I think of need. You're going to need some young guys. You lost a lot. We keep talking about we lost some veteran guys, but you're going to need that pipeline because you don't know in the edge of NIL, this team is very, very young at receiver. And you have to expect that these skill position players are going to move probably amongst the most players in the portal, right? Because teams need 5-6 receivers to play through, injuries, whatever. So I feel like skill position players in the age of NIL are going to move the most. And so having the ability to pull from high school younger guys that they know they need a year or so to develop, unless you're a 5-star already type of guy like a Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, I think getting a guy like CJ Wiley is great. And he's once again a top 100 player in the country, and from all accounts and recruiting sites, he seems like a really high upside player. And then you ended off with Chase Lofton and Gregory Thomas. Chase Lofton, obviously, I wouldn't say this Florida State team has recruited the tight end position out of high school very well. I can't remember the last true high school recruit outside of Nick O'Leary that we got out of high school. And you can correct me in the chat, but out of high school, I don't know if we've gotten a great development prospect, a guy we've developed or recruited really well out of high school. So it's great to see us getting another a highly coveted player like Chase out of Nebraska of all places, right? So you're going into the Midwest and you're getting a guy like that. So you must see something in him, because you put your recruiting tentacles out into the Midwest and you saw something in this kid when you have some of the best athletes in the country running your own state. So that speaks highly of him. And you know what they've done. Mike Norvell loves to utilize tight ends. You brought in Bell last year, and you brought in you've brought in guys from the portal because you want to utilize the tight end position, not only for blocking. You have to block to be a tight end at Florida State, but he wants to use it in the receiving game as well. So I think this is a positive sign in terms of what we want to improve at the first perspective, not just relying on the portal. And then finally, Gregory Thomas, you get him at American Heritage, high upside kid. He's right on the verge of right on the top 300 national type of player. And a great story with him, right? He's a kid from the Seminole Nation in Florida. A great story, right? He would be, if he sticks, once again, and that's something we'll talk about here, right? If he sticks with Florida State, which I think of all these kids, I think he has the best bet for Florida State, because he even, this is like filling a test, right? Of being a scholarship player for Florida State, representing his tribe, his people.
KB, you're talking in the cave a little bit. Take a look at the little audio problem there.
Okay, then you go.
There you go. You're sounding good now. Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
But I think Gregory Thomas is a pinnacle of what you want this team to be, and who you want on this team. I mean, this story, I think if anyone's going to stay committed to you for the next 6 months, it's going to be this kid and his commitment and his story. If you don't know about it, it's amazing, and this is why. With all the NIL garbage and stuff like that, a story like this kind of brings you back into it because of who he is and his family. And it would be so cool someday to see him on the field starting. So I hope he sticks with us, and I believe he will. But what are your thoughts on some of these kids that just missed us?
I think you did a pretty good summary there, KB. The 25 cycle, the 2025 class cycle, looks really strong. I mean, they... Obviously, Mike Norvell, the scouting staff, the recruitment operations, all scored very big over this past weekend and during the time coming up to this weekend. Let's point out now, these are verbal commitments. They're not written commitments. They're not contractual. So things can happen. We know that before signing day. However, I think the thing that's lacking here to me, and we're going to get into that, is the linebacker position. And we'll talk about that in a minute. The big catch here seems to be what Alex Atkins got on the interior offensive line is this Solomon Thomas, 6'4", 315, 5-star.
That was earlier in the year, but
But I mean, the kid's still committed, but that's a big catch. It's the only 5-star so far, correct?
Correct, and they did whiff on a line. I mean, so that is a big deal, like you said, a 5-star lineman, and you got him in December. But you also, to that point, you also whiffed on the offensive lineman. You lost out on the 4-star to Miami. So you do have Solomon Thomas, who's a high 5-star kid. You lost out on this kid right here in Max Buchanan. So who's going to Miami? And once again, these battles are not over, stuff like that. But to I'll give credit where credit is due. You still do have Solomon Thomas, and you need to continue to recruit high 5-star linemen because to date, we have not seen any of the guys that Alex Atkins has brought in as recruits play yet. And I think that is a
lot of them have gone into the portal and left to smaller situations.
Exactly. And
less competitive situations.
Yeah, and that could be a whole nother show. So I think, once again, we saw it last cycle. Alex Atkins did a great job of bringing some higher caliber kids in, higher 4-star, 5-star kids on the offensive line. You got Solomon Thomas. You whiffed on this kid to Miami, Max Buchanan. But you would hope to bring in one or two more. If you got to hold down to Solomon Thomas, so bring in one or two more offensive linemen, because you are gonna lose a lot, and you don't want to have to cheat trying to backfill. I mean, you brought a lot back again. I mean, we've had some of these linemen in the program for 3 or 4 years that were here when he got here, right? Some of these guys have been here forever, and this will be their last year. And so, this next year coming up after this coming season, Alex Atkins guys are going to have to play, whether they be true sophomores, whether they be redshirt sophomores. He's going to have to get those guys in. He's going to have to hit the portal hard, and he's going to have guys like he's going to need guys like Solomon Thomas coming in to backfill and develop.
Alex Atkins may be seeing that and decide to leave. But like you're saying, seniors coming into this season will be Darius Washington, Robert Scott, Byers, Maurice Smith, Kendra Jones, Leonard, who transferred in from Florida, and Rizzi.
Yeah.
These guys are all going to be gone. Yeah. And if you look at the scholarship roster, it's going to be thin. And so that's going to be tough.
It is going to be tough, to your point.
And you're going to have an inexperienced quarterback unless they go into the portal and bring in another veteran. So it's going to be a really weird 25.
26.
26.
Yeah, 25, 26.
No, 25, 26.
Yeah, correct. And like you said, you brought in TJ Ferguson, who could give you another year after this year if it works out. But you're going to lose Richie Leonard, who you just brought in, Maurice Smith, Darius Washington, Robert Scott, Keandre Jones. You're going to Jamara Byers, like you said. And the guys behind them, to your point, Julian Armella, Jalen Early, those kids haven't played. Those are your two best recruits right now. They haven't had real time. They've not seen live fire against real ones, right? They may have played against the top, the FCS number ones, right? When we were up by 30 or 40. But these kids had not had to step in when it really mattered, for consistent snaps, right?
Yeah, and the guys waiting in the wings, most fans haven't even heard their names that much.
Well, that's the two of the guys I just mentioned, Jalen Early and Julian Armella. Those guys.
Well, you got Simmons, Otto, Hilton, Todd. It's they have no experience, so it is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
But back to the good news. The good news is that you did hit that momentum strong, because I think Florida State's class was up in the upper 50s, 60s up until this point when you got these key commits, which is great. Defensive line, receiver, 2 on the defensive line, 1 edge guy, which is amazing. Or sorry, 1 receiver, 2 defensive line, tight end, and a cornerback, which is great. Sertan does his job. He's a great kid. And now you're in the top 10 nationally. What I don't want to get over consumed on, and you'll see it on Twitter, you see it on social media, and that's why I kind of try to stay away from it, is that I don't want us to over focus on commitments and having the battle with, oh God, we're 10th or we're 2nd or we're 7th, because we should know at this point that a commitment in July is basically a 25% commitment, right? Because we are still 5 months away.
You think that's kind of low? 25%
no,
when a guy gives you a verbal commitment, it only weighs 25% in the kid's mind.
Well, what I want to do when I have time is I want to go back to see how many people committed to us in the summer of last year and how many actually stuck with us. And I think that percentage, I may be a little bit low. It may be around 50%, 75%, if I'm being honest. But it feels lower. But I think 50, 75% weight.
You know what? You may be in the area because, and we're going to get into this. Maybe it's a good time to get into it now. Because we know, and we've been saying this a long time, an area of need is linebacker. Area need is linebacker. And we're going to talk about Coach Randy Shannon here. But I saw this statistic on 247 Sports. It said FSU has offered 27 linebackers. Mm-hmm. They've offered 27 linebackers, and 22 were selected other institutions to play football at. And in the last 24 hours, according to this report a few days ago, we had lost 3 blue chippers in 24 hours. One, a kid named Nix, went to Miami. and a kid named Wallace bypassed everybody, went to Arkansas.
Yeah, that's the big one, right?
Going back to your question about offers that Florida State makes, if we've made 27 offers to linebackers alone, the amount of offers going out to other positions is going to be really overwhelming. But this brings us to the point that Randy Shannon, he's got one guy in the class in 25, that's Ethan Pritchard. One guy, he's lost out on 22 other guys.
And here are the offers, like you said, that 24/7. These are the 27 offers that Florida State has thrown out in their current status. Georgia, committed to Arkansas. You're not trending in the right direction with Riley, committed to Alabama. Like you're not in the best inning with any of these kids outside of Ty Jackson right now.
Okay, so what do you think is the problem with the linebacker, just linebacker position?
I think it's dead obvious to everybody. It's coaching. It's the recruiter. It's the person having the conversations because
he can't close the deal.
And people say, well, and you can make the joke, well, he doesn't sign the NIL checks, which is true. But I don't think money's the issue because we've seen money not be the issue among other positions. We haven't seen Surtain have an issue with the DBs and recruiting there, and he's brand new. We haven't seen the issue with Odell, defensive line. We haven't seen the issue with skill positions. Quarterbacks are committing. We haven't seen the issue there. And even now with tight end. And this has been a consistent thing. Like you said, cycle after cycle, Florida State has failed to get a big-time linebacker. Outside, and I think he came in after Blake Nicholson, who's been probably their top prospect to commit. So at the linebacker position, and I think, and people can correct me wrong, I think Randy Shannon came on board after he committed. I'm not sure though, but consistently, like you said, we're having to rely too much on the portal to fill those positions of need, and now we're starting to get our depth is starting to be in a crunch. And we don't feel great about it, right? And still, we're not able to sell NIL and playing time to these kids. And then you see Tavion Wallace choose Arkansas, which doesn't make any sense.
Because Georgia and Florida was after him,
I mean, this is a kid in your backyard. You just come off of 13 win season. You have everything behind you. NIL, legacy program. You are a reputable program. You just came out 13 wins. You have momentum. You have everything in your favor, as opposed to Arkansas, and you still lose out.
Plus, he could come in here and compete. Now, the only thing that might throw him off is there the NIL money wasn't there, or there's a lot of sophomores and freshmen that have been in the program a little while now, and does he figure he can't beat out Otto Graham? Does he feel he can't beat out Blake Nicholson or Cryer or Sean Murphy, who came over from Alabama in the portal? Does he feel he can't compete against those guys? Who knows?
If that's it, then I don't believe that for a second, and I think I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe it's NIL money.
So you think it's Randy Shannon? Now let's say this about Randy Shannon. I once met Randy Shannon just in an airport, just by coincidence. I think he had already been booted out of Miami. He was head coach and he had to depart that position. He was out on a recruiting for the next team he signed on with. I can't even remember who it was, but I ran into him. He couldn't have been a nicer guy, really, just to sit and talk to for a few minutes. I think he's a nice guy. He's a low-key guy. But the question is he over his peak performance in the coaching business? Okay. And he has to be held accountable for this position because this coming season, that position is really, really going to get tested, as you and I both know. And your seniors are Lundy.
That's it. You have Lundy, and then everyone else is a sophomore, essentially. Like you have a young group and an experienced group. Lundy's your veteran.
Riley.
Everyone else is very much young and inexperienced. And now you were able to rotate. Omar got a good amount of snaps last year. Nicholson got some snaps here and there, but this is a very, very, very young group. You lost your two, Tatum and Deloach were your mainstays, and then Lundy was behind that. Right. You lost a lot, and you should be able to sell instant competition to if a kid believes he's a 5-star prospect and a linebacker that can play right away, you should be able to sell this room to him. You should be able to say, we are not sold on next year in this program. If you come in, you're ready to play, you're going to be able to start, because no one on this roster, no offense to them, is an All-American right now, right? They have to prove that on the field. And I think if you can't sell that playing time potential plus NIL, it has to be the coach. It has to be Randy Shannon not being able to either be cutthroat enough to recruit against other programs, to be able to package this message the right way, because you should not be losing these battles. You need to land more Blake Nicholsons on this staff. I mean, that you need to have.
I'm not even sure. I'm going to be honest. I like Blake Nicholson. I'm not even sure he's ready for this battle.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying.
Plus, he's still undersized.
It's okay.
He really is.
He was just a metaphor. You need 3 or 4 5-stars to be developed behind what you have, so that you're not dependent on them having to play right away. So you don't have to say, oh, we have to throw a 5-star freshman in there to play because we're so thin at linebacker, or have to rely on the portal. Because as you saw, we got 1 linebacker out of the portal. I think some of us wish we would have gotten a couple, maybe, but we're relying on the 3 guys we brought in, right, that we recruited. Outside Justin Cryer, he was a transfer, I believe. So it's Shannon. It's Randy Shannon. And I think the biggest weakness from Mike Norvell as a coach is that he is, I think, too loyal to certain coaches on his staff that may be holding him back or holding the program back. And this will be a true test for him. Is he willing to say goodbye? Is he too loyal? Because like you said, Randy Shannon, by all accounts, it seems like a great guy, probably a great person off the field, on the field, whatever. But you have to be able to look past and say, if he's holding our program back, we have to let go. We have to move forward. Even if he has all those check marks and he's a great person, because he's failed at Florida, he's failed at Miami, and what is he doing at Florida State? We don't have, you can say, great, he got Tane Bethune drafted, and Deloach developed really well. Is that on him or is that on the player? I don't know, but the recruiting side has to be there. It can't just be on the field development. You have to be able to recruit in the amount of college football, and he's not doing it. So Mike Norvell needs to really show us that he's willing to change his staff up. It could be Randy Shannon today. It may be Alex Atkins a year from now, because if we don't start developing the offensive line recruits, it may be him on the board next. But I see that as Coach Norvell's biggest weakness as a coach, his inability to address potential weaknesses in his staff.
I can't disagree with you. I think eventually it comes down to accountability. This, as we used to call it, college football, which is more minor league NFL ball now, it's about accountability. It's about accountability per player, per unit, per team, and what's going to get you to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this team now is getting a lot of hype. Not only are we sitting here hyping the 25 class, the 24 class was hyped. There's a lot of pressure on Mike Norvell. He's carrying a huge contract now. He's one of the top 10 paid coaches in the country, yep. I believe.
Yeah.
So he's got to hold people accountable. The question is, can you help a coach that isn't a good closer?
No.
I think Randy Shannon can go into a household and make good connection with the parents, the family, but does he make the strong connection with the kid? Does the kid think, and do the parents think, can this guy get my kid to the next level? They're looking at his record of putting linebackers into the league. Is that going to get my kid there? And this goes back to not only that. This is exactly why FSU is leaving the ACC, because kids see that SEC guys are going to the league, Big Ten guys are going to the league. What's my status? What's my competition here? So I don't know. We don't have the answer to it. But if this unit gets beat up, and we'll be able to tell when the games start, if those linebackers aren't there, it'll be noticeable real quick on that defense. So it's going to be an interesting thing to watch.
Well, I'll tell you, if Florida State doesn't land 4-star recruit, if we're relying on 3-star, high 3-star developmental guys that have high upside at linebacker, he should be fired. If you can't close the deal, you're a bad coach. If you can't recruit, you're not a good coach. You have to be able to recruit in modern college football. You have to.
Renee makes a good point, and that is, what about Ernie Sims now? Ernie Sims played a long time in the league. He's now an assistant linebacker coach, okay? What is his responsibility? He's got to be the guy that now can go in with Randy Shannon and they together say, this guy's got, I think Ernie Sims had 10 plus years in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, he's established himself.
Yeah.
And I believe that the coaching ranks in the future of Florida State have to bring some NFL experience down here. You know what I mean? And that may be a problem at the offensive line as well. You need guys that they can say, I played in the league, and let me tell you how this really works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think, and he's young. He's 39. He can connect to.
Yes.
He would be able to connect, I think, a little bit closer.
What is Randy Shannon? Is he late 60s, mid 60s?
Yeah. I think.
We're not saying that, but there is a connection. But Odell,
he's recruiting his ass off. So once again, it's, can you close the deal or not? And I see the Ernie Sims hype train. He's had a couple of positions. He's still young. He's been at FAU as a strength coach. He's been at USF as a co-defensive coordinator, linebackers coach. He's been he was at UCF as a linebackers coach briefly. And the issue for me is that he doesn't have a track record of signing All-American.
I think that's what he's got to establish himself. Ernie Sims knows that.
Let's look at his record. Let's look at his all-time commits right here. This is all record. So unless people can prove to me that, and that's the gamble you would have to take, is because, he's not been.
No. I'm not saying have Ernie replace Shannon at this point. If Ernie goes out and can get a couple of guys, and they'll know, even if it's under Randy Shannon, they're going to know Ernie Sims was the guy who got this guy, right?
Yeah.
If he can bring in a couple of top guys, 4-star, maybe 1 5-star, then he establishes himself. Because we know Ernie Sims knows how to play the game. He's played it at the league. He knows what they want. That part of it's not there. It's, can he go out and get guys?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I just don't like throwing around the buzzword, Ernie Sims the guy. I'd rather you find.
No, I didn't say that.
No, not you.
I'm not trying to say that.
I'm saying others out there are like, get Ernie Sims in there.
I know.
But he doesn't have a track record to prove that he's the guy. I'd rather, if we're going to make a move, make sure it's the right move, because you don't want to be switching coaches every other season.
Well, look at back to Renee's comment here. Just like secondary coach, Surtain, guy in the league for years, right? Yeah. His son's in the league now, right? He coached his son up to be in the league. Mm-hmm. He can walk into a house and say,
well, because he was a legendary, great high school coach.
So look at the guys he's bringing in.
Yeah. So you're right. I'm not saying Ernie Sims can't be the guy just because you don't have a track record, because of course you need to be in the role to be able to influence the recruitment, right? I'm just saying, if you are going to make a move, make sure you evaluate the field and don't just say, well, he's a Florida State guy, let's get him in here. Make sure you're making the right moves, right? And evaluate, because I do think a move has to be made, because linebacker is a position of need. If you really want this defense to be over the top, last year you were dependent on Bethune and Deloach not getting hurt. Luckily, for most of the year, they were not. But you lost that safeguard. We'll see how this year goes. But you need to have those recruits coming in consistently.
You know what? And that's the scary part. If we lose one of our more experienced guys, like Lundy, once he goes down, then you're really in a bind. You're really in a bind real quick for a long season, and you're playing enough teams that can beat you. And it's not going to take. You can get knocked out real quick. Yeah. So we've said it enough. This is definitely a place of need for the 24 season, much less 25.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I think, yeah, you
enough
don't want
said.
to wait too long on this. No,
Enough
absolutely
said.
not.
Enough said.
Yeah, the other thing I'll bring up though, because I think once again, I'm sure he does this, is that you should evaluate every coach like this. And I think
Of course.
Randy
Of
Shannon's
course.
now in the spotlight, as he should be. But once again, we should look at, when, I think every coach should be under this radar and see, like, not only who are you bringing in, when are they playing, how are they developing, and looking at multiple phases of the process. Because I'm going to go back to it. We still have yet to see any of Alan Atkins' primetime recruits be on the field. And he's been here, 4 years now?
Yep.
I would expect us to see one of them on the field, because it's not like, no offense, it's not like our offensive line is known to be elite. No one is out there is preaching our offensive line to be a top 5 offensive line in the country. So it's not like it can't get better. We went outside in the portal to get better this year and to maintain what we had. So it wasn't like they were looking on our bench and saying, oh, these guys are ready to go. Let's bring them up. We don't need to go in the portal. No, we actually got 2 more guys out of the portal to start for us and to rotate for us. So I'm looking at guys he's recruited or influenced recruiting on for the offensive line, and those guys still aren't playing. So we should be giving the same scrutiny to other coaches on this roster.
I agree.
Because we know who calls the plays. It's not Alex Atkins. It's Mark Norvell.
He's not calling the plays.
So, we shouldn't just look at Randy Shannon. It should be all coaches. And I think Alex Atkins has gotten the sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's got this sweetheart treatment for a long time.
He's gotten a lot of hugs and kisses, and in FSU he has, and this is nothing against him or anybody else, but it seems to be the truth of what you're saying. That's the truth of our perspective, okay?
I think he brings in great players. I just want to see them actually play.
Let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this. If he can produce a decent offensive line by just bringing guys in from the portal, why do I have to bring in high school guys? The portal is the tool. So why do I have to go out and spend all my time on a guy in high school if I can spend more time on a guy in the portal who's already got a lot of snaps under his belt? What difference does it make? The bottom line is what is my offensive line producing?
That's true. And that's true. I don't care if you build the portal or high school. That's absolutely true.
So maybe high school is a little overrated.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Right. If I can't get a 4 or 5 star guy out of high school, because even those guys sometimes don't make it, okay, why shouldn't I just go for portal guys? If I'm Mike Norvell, I would say to him, I don't care where you get these guys. I want you to bring in the guys that are going to help this football team.
Exactly. I agree.
And help us win.
But that's the thing we're missing right now is I don't think we are a top 10 offensive line, and we're competing for we need to be competing for national championships, and that's the expectation.
That is the expectation.
And I don't think you can't do that unless you have a dominant offensive line, which we do not have. And have not shown consistently to have. Now, and unless you're sending guys to the next level, those portal guys are not going to come to you. So that's the thing. Unless you start sending guys to the NFL, those portal guys are not going to come to you, and those high school kids are not going to come.
Especially when the coach, and I don't think Coach Atkins played in the league, right? He didn't play in the league, so I think that's a credibility issue on the resume for the current type of players that are looking to go to that next level. All right, I think that's an issue, and so we'll see. We'll see. But it's like Georgia. They're continuing to hit all these 4 and 5 star linemen in high school, and they're developing them. Right? Clemson the same way. I don't see them. They're not going into the portal and grabbing offensive linemen. Is Georgia going into the portal and grabbing offensive linemen? You would think they'd flock there out of the portal. Right?
No, they lose because they lose a lot to the portal.
Yeah, they lose backups to the portal.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I don't care what it takes, but we need to have an offensive or a dominant offensive line, which we don't have. And that's right. It's not just Randy Shannon. Every coach needs to be under the same scrutiny. So don't just throw it all on Randy.
We're not doing that.
We know he needs to go. I know he needs to go because the recruiting side, is not acceptable. So either needs to turn it around by December. I think they're not going to get rid of him now. It's not going to happen.
Oh,
So
no.
stop thinking. No, everyone needs to stop thinking it's going to happen, because it's not going to happen right before the season starts. That would be asinine. So you're not going to be able to replace him with anybody.
No, it would be
So,
disruptive to the process.
It will happen after the season, after commitment day. If they
Right.
fail to sign any high caliber athlete or high caliber players, 4-star or higher, he's gone. That's it. So
Well, his contract. When's his contract? I mean, they could buy it.
it doesn't matter. They'll buy him out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this will happen in December or January. It's not going to
Yeah,
happen
no,
in the next 6
right.
months. So
Right.
we'll talk about it tonight, but there's no sense having 5 shows.
The
on
only
it.
thing that saves Randy Shannon, really, Coach Shannon, is production by his unit.
No, not even that.
You don't
If
think so?
if he doesn't close, unless he lands like an All-American too out of that group, maybe you're right, but I think he could land.
I think
like,
production trumps everything.
So
how do you get rid of a guy if he comes into your office and his unit has produced? I don't care.
is that? How do you
A
measure
business,
that?
you're
How do you
closed.
measure
Your
that?
guys are
How do you
closing.
measure that?
What?
How are you measuring production?
How you measure the production?
Yeah, how are you measuring linebacker
Tackles, defensive stats, other defensive stats. Absolutely, you can see it on the film. The coach can sit there and the head coaches and Fuller are going to get statistics on each unit and what they're doing. Absolutely, game by game. I mean, this thing is so statistical based now. They know what that unit's producing or not producing.
Let's say we're coming around to the end of the season. He's got a top 20 linebacker unit statistically, but he failed in December. Top 15, top 20 linebacker group statistically. Florida State's had a pretty good season.
What's pretty good? Did they make the playoffs?
It's December. It hasn't been decided yet. But they're in the ACC title game. Top 15 unit, ACC title game. But it looks like he is only going to sign maybe 1 4-star linebacker. What would you say?
I would say he's still a coach until after the season.
No. But based on those things, based on him having a top 15 unit and only 1 4-star signing, you would keep him.
It's a tough decision. I think if Florida State wins the ACC championship and goes on to the playoffs and he has a top 15 linebacker unit in the country, he stays.
Regardless of what he does.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I think that's your Norvell hugs and kisses thing, where that's where you're never going to get
You think
better.
I'm hugging Norvell?
No, I think
You
you're
think
like
I am?
Norvell. I think you're like Norvell in that aspect.
No. I'm looking at numbers, KB.
Great as a team.
KB, you're in the business world. It's about numbers, right?
Yeah, but there's different statistics you have
No,
to measure.
no,
You
but
can't just look in a
sports,
silo.
Sports has a lot of statistics, and players are judged on statistics. Coaches are judged on statistics. So if Florida State has a good year, they make the playoffs, and his unit is helpful in getting there, and it's ranked decently nationally, first Fuller is going to have to make a decision. Fuller is the first guy that has to go to Norvell and say, I think we need to move in a different direction. Fuller
remember,
gets the first shot.
The thing I hate.
If Fuller defends Randy Shannon or Ordell or anybody, that's the guy first that's going to give Norvell.
There's a famous quote that says, you can shape statistics to make them look however you want them to. And that's why...
Especially in crime and policing.
And that's why you can't shape your opinion on a coach just based on statistics. Because statistics can look great. They can be misleading. People look at interceptions by cornerbacks. Interceptions are most of the times flukes, because that doesn't tell how good or bad a player is, right? Especially as a defensive back. You can look at many other things that tell them, game tape, things like that, tell how good the player is. But that's where I say it's one component of how well does he develop, how well does that unit look, and then how well does recruiting look. If he still cannot bring in elite talent, I think that much more, that's 33%.
I understand
of
what you're
does.
saying. That's part of it's part of his accountability. It's part of his job description.
Exactly.
To be a good recruiter, to be able to close on guys, because as you say, if you want to compete for national championships, You can't be bringing in 3-star linebackers.
No, and us saying, well, they have high upside. No,
No,
we're
I
not
understand.
we're not
I
in the
understand.
business of high upside 3-stars.
I think he's probably not sleeping as soundly as he would like, because he's 1 or 2 injuries away in the linebacker corps of being really depleted.
Yeah, and if he's a great, if he's a great developer of talent, then let's make him an analyst or another assistant somewhere, but not the linebackers coach.
No, I got
like
you.
it, like
Right.
if
I
you
got
can't recruit, you've got to be somewhere else. That's
move it on.
All right, so we talked about recruiting. We talked about where we land on those types of things. I guess the other thing we could talk about quickly is the new contract for Link Jarrett. I think that's pretty relevant news. I think it's pretty well deserved. Anything you want to, this is, he's only been with us 2 years, but he had a massive turnaround, as we all know, got to the College World Series, almost brought Florida State a championship in the second year. What are your thoughts on the deal?
Yeah, Link Jarrett, he's the right guy. I've said it before he took us to the World Series. I said it when he was in the World Series, and I said it after we lost in the World Series. Link Jarrett's the right guy. He grew up in Florida State. He played at Florida State. He was under Coach Martin. He is dedicated to bring a CWS trophy home to Florida State. That's his mission. I really believe he's getting paid well. He's getting paid well.
He had signed a 7-year deal when he came from Notre Dame.
No, his 7-year deal, the original deal was 7 years, $6.5 million.
And that's what I'm saying.
The new terms of the extension have not been disclosed, but he's 72-48 over his 2 years, 26 wins this year, and a trip to the World Series at Florida State. Haven't been there in a while. In fact, I had my old shirt on. It said 2010. Maybe we've been there before then, but I had an old shirt on this week. So to make a long story short, I think it's well-deserved. I mean, that's what these guys are doing, because there was the rumor that Texas A&M, that his agent was in contact with Texas A&M, but we know how these agents work, right?
Yeah.
We know, like Norvell's, he's going to Alabama, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he was going to Alabama. I'm not even sure I think it was on the table, but this is how these agents work, and that's what they do. I'd do the same thing. It's leverage. It's leverage.
It is, and that's kind of the stuff I hate, because
you can hate it, but it's what it is.
In no normal circumstance would a guy in a 7-year deal already get a pay bump after 1 year of success. I like Link. I think he is the right coach as well, but he was only 2 years into a 7-year
I know.
deal.
If he goes back next year and wins it, does he get another extension?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Usually these deals would have incentives and bonuses based on what you do in the postseason. So I'm sure he already, if we look back at his original deal, I bet he hit a bunch of check marks that got him another $500K, another 50, whatever it was, based on performance in the contract. So I bet he checked all those off already. But and it's not just for Link. I hate when we don't reward consistency versus just.
Well, he took Notre Dame.
He was a great
coach. He took Notre Dame there. He's taken Florida State there. He turned this thing around, because the first year was a total rebuild. It was a disaster.
And that's why you gave him 7 years. That's why you gave him 7 years.
No, I understand. I'm not arguing with you. I understand.
I know it's the agent. It's the agent's job to do it. So
that's his agent. It's the agent's doing it. And that's the agent's job, right?
It is. You're right. And because I don't, like you said.
So I'm just glad he's here.
Yeah.
I'm just glad he's here. Now FSU needs a men's basketball coach. We're not even going to get into that, Renee. We've preached that. I've preached it on Twitter. We've preached it on this program. There's nothing coming out of that camp. And everything looks like it's going to be a disaster. And I put out on Twitter, who did I put out on Twitter should be, and you said it too, that should be the next head coach.
You said Sam Cassell.
Sam Cassell, who won his 4th ring between assistant coaching and playing in the league. We need a guy who's been in the league.
But it won't work, because a guy that's been in the league doesn't. I don't think he either won't want to understand and work with the NIL environment, I don't think he wants to deal
Do you
with
think
that.
Sam Cassell
Kids-
wants to coach in the NBA because it's
Yeah,
easier?
yeah, absolutely.
It's easier recruitment wise.
Yeah, no, exactly, because it's
Because
just
he can always come to college.
yeah,
you
it's
know,
straight.
go,
It's
oh.
straight contracts. It's easier. Honestly, it would be easier to deal in the NBA.
Well, what if they
offer
offered Sam Cassell, if the NBA's not offering him a head coaching position, which they're probably not yet, would he be interested in the money that Coach Ham's making right now? What's he making? $1 million plus a year? I don't know what Sam Cassell's making.
I just know he's in his last year. But the thing.
But this is what we need to shake up the program.
But Sam, if I was him, I would not go into Florida State unless I knew I had the NIL collective's backing. I would say I want to know that I'm going to be supported like Mike Norvell is and like Link Jarrett is and like all these other programs are, because I'm not going to come in here without money behind me. And so when I go on the road and I talk to a 5-star recruit and he falls in love with me because I'm a great guy and I'm a good coach and I've been in the league and I know what it takes because I've worked with the best programs, or best basketball programs in the NBA, and I know what it takes to get there. I want to be able to tell him that we're going to have you covered when we say we have the NIL.
I agree.
That would be my first and only question.
Well, you have to, if you're coming into any program, your first question is, what is the history behind it? And how am I going to get players in here? When they have so many options today, I would be concerned because Florida State is not known to be a big-time basketball. I mean, not at this point. This coming season could be a real disaster. I mean, this has the perfect storm written all over it. There's no news coming out of Florida State, the hiring of a new assistant coach. He's some guy. I looked the guy up. He's some guy that has AAU connections can bring kids.
It's because you just lost one of your top assistants to Boston College.
It's not good.
And it's because no one wants to come on to the Leonard Hamilton ship in his last year when they know what's happening.
They know this is it.
This is a guy who knows Leonard Hamilton that's going to come on.
Yes.
But anyone on the staff who's staying on knows their job is likely up at the end of next year. Like that's a tough sell to any coach.
That is.
Anyone to stay on this sinking ship. So it's kind of a bad position to be in for anyone right now. But
I agree.
This is where, if they haven't started, there needs to be a search committee in the back shadows going on, saying who is our next coach look like, and how much money are we willing to put behind him, similar to the football program? Are we willing to go all in? Is it 75%? Is it 50%? But they need to be transparent with that next coach and say, what is the collective willing to spend to be a winning program, or not?
Anytime I get the opportunity, and you see them, I send out these tweets to Athletic Director Alford. He's on Twitter a lot, and so I send him notes, and he knows who I am. He knows who I am. The old man, he knows. I know, and he knows that I know, and I know that he knows that this program's in trouble. This is his weakest link in the athletic program, and he's being a nice guy to let this contract taper out after this season, but he's got to get that. How are we going to make this transition? Because this program's going to be in trouble for a while, and it's his weakest link, and he's not been able to kind of take this on. So that's all I got on this.
And the final thing is, people said
they
failed to make the move because they're waiting to move conferences too. That could be true. And they said they want to make a smooth transition, new coach, new conference, because that helps with recruiting a new coach as well. Like if you're going to the Big Ten, that's a higher stage.
You know what? You could be right. And unfortunately for FSU fans, there's none of our FSU programs really have such good inside information to report stuff like this, okay? We really don't have that. And the guys who say, well, I've been sworn to secrecy. I can't say anything about anything. That's all BS, okay? So you can listen to that shit, and they want to pretend like they're super insiders. Well, if you're a super insider, you have information that you can leak, okay? And so on. They just don't have it, okay? But you could be right. It's going to be interesting to watch how it rolls out. We hope the Seminoles do well in basketball, but it's going to be tough. All right, let's move it on.
All right. I think the final thing that
No, wait. One final before we move on to our new segment, which you'll introduce, is there was a big rumor about FSU going to getting an invite, like an official invite to the SEC on July 12th. Now, this was put out by ex-Twitter guy Greg Swam. Okay, now Greg Swam has a lot of subscribers and followers. That doesn't mean he's an expert guy, but he does this kind of full time. All right, and he said he believes that FSU's not going to get the offer from the Big Ten because they're not part of the American Association of Universities based on research money and all this other stuff. I'm not going to get into that. But he said July 12th could be a magic date where they could get this invite along with Clemson. So, I find that as interesting. We'll be watching. Is he credible? We'll see how credible he is if that comes. But who the hell knows? What we do know is this: Florida State is going to get out of the ACC. That's going to happen. They're not staying in. They're not going to try to leverage it to get more money and stay in the ACC. To do that would be a disaster.
Yeah. The
lawsuit, and I'm just going to tack this on, the lawsuit continues to move forward. A motion by the ACC in the Tallahassee court to stop Florida State from filing in Florida dropped. They were defeated in that. And Florida State's bid to have the one in North Carolina stopped also failed. So both suits are going forward, okay, and that's the news from just a few days ago. So that's where we are on that.
All right. So we're
go to our new segment.
So we're gonna do a short little segment. We'll expand it later on in the coming weeks, but a little seminal smack talk session where we just go through Twitter. And I think we all know that Florida State fans they're pretty good on Twitter, and they like to post some smack talk or just post some really, really interesting stuff that I like to view in the meantime. But one of the big things that came out that became an article over this past week was, I guess, there was a space that was hosted this past week where
on Twitter
there was Spaces was hosted. And DJU's father was on there, and there was other, as you can see here.
Big Dave.
Yeah, Big Dave. Big Dave was on here, and as you can see here, there was a bunch of other people, some FSU fans on there, and there's just a bunch of other people. And at some point, someone disrespected his son, he felt like, and at that point, he threatened, I guess, to.
It got ugly. Let's just say it got ugly. And it wasn't like WWE where it was made up. It just got ugly. Real.
Yeah.
Well, let's be careful with our words here.
You can look it up, but there was a verbal altercation. I'll play some of the audio if you guys can hear it.
It's out there. If you Google it, it's out there.
Yeah, it's. And they were trying to say this.
It's hard to understand.
I'll play because audio.
The guys are talking over each other.
I'll play some of the audio, but and then we'll go back.
Yeah, I didn't know you really good.
Well, the crazy part is though, like you talking crazy about DJU as if he ain't good, as if your ass didn't want him.
Hey, I didn't want him. I never wanted him.
Did your school want him? Though? I bet Florida can't call it.
I never wanted this sorry bastard. He a tight end.
Oh my, yo.
Look, I know for a fact you wouldn't say that in front of me, dead in my face, homie. Straight up.
I definitely.
You know what I mean? You could speak all you want on here, homie, but come on, man. Don't be disrespectful. Because in real life, real time, nigga, you wouldn't say that shit in front of me.
You must, hey, listen,
you know, goddamn well you wouldn't say that in front of me, nigga. I'll snap your goddamn neck.
I will beat the hell out of you.
Your little bony ass won't beat shit, homie.
All right. I'll stop it there. So essentially, he called DJU a tight end and didn't want him. Then Big Dave stands up for his son. I don't really have an issue with it. Guys talk smack all the time. I don't think it represents Florida State. I think it's just him being him. And like you said, if you go on things like this, of course, Oregon State fans are acting like they didn't want DJU, and Clemson fans are now acting like they didn't want him. And it's just like,
It's smack.
It's all the
typical
smack talk and stuff like that. And now you have articles like this that say he threatened to fight a fan and chaos erupts.
Of course.
It's all just clickbait.
Well, the question is, the real question here is for fans and for FSU fans. Now, Big Dave has been welcomed with open arms in Tallahassee and by the FSU community, and he's responded to those hugs. He's come in. He's been on a lot of different shows, and he's told the story of his family and of DJU. And I've listened, and it's an enticing story. But he is very protective of his family and of his son, and I don't think there's anybody who's going to object to that, right?
Yeah.
I think he stood up for his son. Maybe he regrets some of the words. I don't think he does regret the words, but maybe the question is, could that have been handled differently? But he's protective of his son, and he has every reason to be protective of his son and of his family and of his son's reputation. Okay, the question is when he engages with, if he goes on these sites. There were 800 people listening there, 800 people, and then a lot of people out of that site were putting stuff out on Twitter and stuff. Nobody wins in that, I don't think, and I think DJU himself, probably would want to distance himself from this. It's non-football type of stuff. You know what I mean? The question is, if DJU struggles at quarterback for Florida State, how is that going to work for everybody? You know what I mean? How is that going to work? I think DJU is going to be fine. I think he's going to do what Mike Norvell and staff want him to do. I think that he's going to distribute the football. He is a physical specimen, and it shows all the history to be able to distribute the football around to all the playmakers. And the big question will be, they're going to win a lot of games. The question is, are they going to win the big games? Are they going to win the right games? And are they going to get through the ACC to the playoffs? Yeah. And how are the fans going to react to that? And what kind of legacy in one season is that going to establish? And if it doesn't go well, how will Big Dave react to the media that comes with that?
Yeah, exactly. I think that'll be. I don't think it'll affect DJU at all. I think once the season starts, I would hope Big Dave will be fine regardless of how things go. It's just I don't think we've had outspoken parents of players before. Mr. Deloach was outspoken, stuff like that,
but not in this vein. Not in this vein.
Maybe not as much as this, but once again, when adversity hits, it sometimes things people react in different ways. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully his team rolls. But I expect there to be adversity during parts of the season. We'll talk about that in the coming weeks as we get closer to kickoff in August. But I expect this team to face a lot of adversity as it's a young receiving core that's going to go through growing pains. I think especially early. So it'll be interesting how. And I think it's regardless of what's around, it's going to be up to DJU to just stay focused and stay locked in.
Play football.
And regardless of it's his father or his friends or his whatever, stay off of social, and stay focused and stay with your team.
That's it.
And it doesn't matter what else, whoever's saying whatever, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
and the fans can do their crap talking or whatever. We can do our crap talking. Just, I think he seems mature enough as a player that it's not going to get to him. Similar to what Jordan Travis was. That's why you picked him, right? That's why you selected him. That's why he wanted to come here to be under Norvell. And that's why Norvell trusted him to take the position over. So
I think that's a good statement. I think that the bottom line is, how did DJ feel about it? Did he read it? Did he hear about it? I'm sure he did. And did him and his dad have a talk about this? And the bottom line is, you just said it. DJ, seems like a super kid, and his dad really wants him to do well. I think any dad would want your son to do well. Okay? So that doesn't change, that dynamics. And probably after this incident there, maybe Big Dave will, pick where he goes a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe he likes doing it. I don't know. But it really comes down to Big Dave protecting his son, protecting his family. But it did, people are going to blow things up. I think it's all about nothing. And reporters wrote something about it,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So if Big Dave ever wants to come on this program and talk about anything, he's more than welcome. We don't go out and start soliciting a lot of this, but anybody's welcome to come on here and we'll talk to you, but we'll ask you tough questions as well.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And last thing on Trash Talk, I was just scrolling through Twitter, and this is the crap you see. FSU, y'all boys gonna be just fine at linebacker, and they got a clip of DJU truck. He's a big dude, man.
He's a big guy.
He is a big man.
He's a big guy, and I like this kid. I really do. I think he's getting some bad raps, and they're going, "Oh, he'd be good at linebacker." Well, maybe he has to make a game-winning tackle after a fumble or an interception. That's what that drill's about, and some people don't get that. Okay.
So you don't like get hurt, like you said. If you throw,
occasionally, you see quarterbacks, they won't even go after a guy. But it could be a critical situation. I think DJ's going to go after a guy. I mean, you could win or lose a game on a basis of a quarterback tackling somebody, and people go, "Whoa, that should never happen." Well, it does happen. Okay,
exactly.
But there's some quarterbacks, no, I'm not doing that. So
but they're gonna troll you guys. We're gonna troll us. You got,
of course.
Yeah.
But we're here to we're about fan perspective. Okay, we're about fan perspective. We're willing to talk about any of the issues, and we love Florida State, and we're gonna call it like we see it, and we're not here to hurt feelings or give hugs and kisses and it's, what the season's right around. I saw a thing on the internet the other day. It was like 8 more Saturdays before the first game, right?
Yeah, it's coming up. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
So camp starts. When does camp start? I mean, the pros are going to camp here in July, late July. And
I think fall camp.
Florida State opens early because they have a 0-week game, right?
Yeah, I mean, fall camp typically begins the first week of August, like around the 7th. So, they have about a month, and usually they've done that at UNF and stuff like that. So, I think it should be coming up here. Yeah, they just had an article up. They're going to hold their fall camp at UNF.
North Florida,
August 7th and 8th. August 7th.
Oh, that's where they go over there for a week, right?
I think at least a week, a couple days.
Yeah, it's hot, humid, right?
Yeah. So that'll be good. That'll be good.
Well,
they got about a month left, and
boy, it is going to be an interesting season, man. I mean, there's some new teams we've never seen on the schedule. You've got some huge games: Clemson, Miami, Florida, Notre Dame. This is
SMU, and
SMU is not going to be any blowover. You can't look past anybody because there are some weaknesses on this ball club.
We'll talk about
some weaknesses, and we've highlighted a few of them. But it's going to be an interesting season, and we hope you guys will join us, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Cool. So, all right. I think that's going to do it. Great show. Thank you all for coming out, for supporting the show, watching, liking. Stay tuned. We'll probably have our next show in a week or two. We'll probably do like we said, season upcoming. We're going to start doing some of our prediction shows, preview shows, and getting ahead of it, obviously, before the kickoff and as fall camp approaches. So stay tuned for that. But thank you again for stepping in and watching. Have a great 4th of July.
Hey, and Renee, you're down in Corpus Christi. Keep an eye on that hurricane. Okay, yes. They said it could kind of turn and go into your area. So
absolutely.
Keep tracking that, and our hopes and prayers and thoughts go out to everybody in Jamaica and other places where these horrible storms unfortunately do a lot of deadly destruction and loss of life, loss of property. It's tough, it's tough. And so, it's like something happens to us and what are we going to do? People's whole lives are blown away. So let's put everything in perspective and move forward. Happy 4th of July to everybody and here. And let's have a safe holiday. And especially, hey, I understand those. You're having a big 4th of July celebration down there on the mall, KB. There's some big acts down there.
Yeah, I won't be there. So,
but you know what's kind of cool now is I guess these drone things. Those are unbelievable, really.
And especially where areas where there's less. Where there's less rain, it's helpful. So, but yeah, everyone be safe, have fun. If you have a day off, enjoy it. If you have a long weekend, enjoy it even more. Have a good time. We'll see you guys soon. Stay tuned, and thanks for supporting the show. And we'll see you soon. See you guys.